Howdy, hey everyone! And a couple months ago, I started a journey in which I'm giving every single Pokemon without signature moves one to call their own. And we've already gone through the first 4 generations, so now it's time to head on over to Unova. But before we do that, first some ground rules. First of all, if a Pokemon, or anyone in their evolutionary line, has ever had a signature move in any previous games, whether it's been taken away from them or not, or if they've been a regional form or not, they don't get one. Basically, if Bulbapedia says that they've had a signature move, they don't get to be on here. But with that short thing out of the way, let's head on to the first Pokemon. Since Hisuian Samurott has its signature move, and Emboar used to have a signature move of its own, let's skip straight to Superior, based on snakes and French royalty, but let's mostly focus on snakes because the French thing is kind of hard to turn into a move. Now, most snakes are either constrictors or venomous. Superior is not a poison type, like many other snake Pokemon, so I guess it must be a constrictor. Because of this, I wanted to give it a variant of Wrap, except with an actually acceptable base power. So, Force Coil is a 75 power grass-type physical move that wraps the opponent. Pretty simple, but they don't all need to be super complex, you know? Watchog is a groundhog, duh. And it's also a crossing guard with its stern expression, crossed arms, and high visibility vest markings. And wanting to play into that security guard, I thought it would be pretty interesting to give it a move similar to Alert. Alert is a status move with high priority, meaning it usually goes first. And if the target goes for an attacking move, their attack stat is lowered by 2 stages. Would this be overpowered? Yeah, but is Watchog getting any competitive play anyways? No. Stoutland is a doggy, more specifically a Yorkshire or Scottish Terrier, and has this theme of loyalty to it. Many of its dex entries mention how it's extremely loyal and trustworthy Pokemon, with even some parents trusting it to babysit. But even more of its dex entries mention how it saves people from being buried in snow. So I figured I might as well take this aspect of Spoutman and put it into a Pokemon move, Retrieve. It's a normal type move, and if the user has used up a consumable item, it goes back to the user. It can only be used once per battle. It's very, very similar to the pickup ability, just in move form. Now, I didn't have much of an idea for Liepard. It's kind of just an evil leopard. So I decided to go with a move like Deceptive Slash, where the user lures the target into a false sense of security, then strikes, lowering the target's defense on the first turn, then attacking on the next. So it kind of fits with the Catwoman inspiration. Even though I don't know much about her, this seems like the kind of thing she would do. Kind of. Unfezant is a fun, well, I don't know if I'd say fun, but interesting Pokemon in which it has gender differences. From a design standpoint, it just makes them more unique to the person using it, but I decided to make the entire move based off of it. See, according to the dex, females are more agile flyers, while the males have these intricate feathers on their face. So the move Decisive Dive is a 70 base power flying type move, whose side effect depends on the gender of the user. If the user is male, it lowers the target's attack, similarly to Intimidate. And if the user is female, then it becomes a priority move, as a reference to their more agile flying. For Zebstrika, I couldn't think of much similar to Liepard, so I thought, well, it's a zebra. Zebras are similar to horses, and horses can kick things, so strike it. Sure, has a chance to paralyze and lowers the target's defense. After all of you been kicked by a horse before? Yeah. Now, just imagine that pain, but combined with a taser. Gigalith is a giant stone monster, and once again, I don't really know what to do, I just gave it a generic rock-type move. Realistically, almost any rock-type Pokemon with legs could have it, but I decided to give it to Gigalith specifically because it has these giant legs. Although, now that I think about it, I could have done something about these crystals. Oh well, it's too late now. Stone Stomp is a 150 base power physical move that always goes second and damages the user a decent amount. After all, I have a kind of theme for these videos in which the stereotypical rock monsters always have some sort of recoil effect to them. Now, all three of the elemental monkeys are really just kinda, "Mom, can we have starter?" "No, we have starters at home." The starters at home. So I pretty much gave them all boring, identical moves. Just 95 base power physical moves with matching the type of the monkey, being Playful Petals, Spirited Soak, and Frolicking Flame respectively. However, I did do this theme of making them all seem like happy, which kind of contrasts the gruff and rough look of most of them. Except Semi-Poor. That one just looks kind of stoned. Basharna is a fun one. Being this kind of weird dream creature, I felt like giving it an equally weird move. Sleep Paralysis is an 80 base power psychic type move that doubles in power if the target's asleep. If they are asleep when this move is used on them, the target will wake up and cannot be put to sleep for 3 turns. Even though the name mentions sleep paralysis, it's more similar to like waking up in a cold sweat after a nightmare. I actually thought about giving it a chance to paralyze, but this felt both more appropriate and original. Now, for a vast majority of these moves, I look at the Pokemon's dex entries and base the move off of that, as well as the combination of their design, and Swoobat is a prime example of that. Lots of its dex entries mention how it can create powerful ultrasonic waves, so the move, Ultrasonic Wave, is a 65 base power move that forces the target off of the field and confuses whatever comes in next. If used by a wild Swoobat, or in a battle against a wild Pokemon, you just instantly flee. Excadrill is a drill, so it gets Drill Rush. It's an 80 base power Steel type move that deals super effective damage to ground types. As a reference to how both drills and moles, Excadrill's 2 main inspirations, usually break up the ground. Now, since Gen 5 was kind of meant to be a reboot of the series, a lot of the Pokemon mimic actual Gen 1 Pokemon, and Audino is no different, being the Chansey Nurse Joy replacement of the region. And so, to feed into the nurse inspiration of Audino, Escort is a normal type status move in which the user escorts their ally out of the field, with the ally gaining 3/4 of their max HP upon a successful switch. This seems kinda overpowered, in which you pretty much, if you used on a regenerator Pokemon, they just instantly get all of their health back on a switch. But at the same time, it would be priority, and so you'd essentially just use up both of your Pokemon's turn in order to heal your Pokemon and switch them out. And so it's kind of 2 moves in one, in which you spend 1 turn to heal and the other is switch. I don't know, man. It's an interesting idea. Conkeldurr is a giant hulking mass of muscle and veins, and it carries around these 2 concrete pillars. So, 2 hits twice? A move that hits twice? Concrush is a rock-type physical move with 65 base power and hits twice. Can't be used twice in a row and damages the user a bit. Some pretty interesting side effects. And if you think about it, that's just 130 base power. Also, I love it whenever signature moves are not the same type as the Pokemon, like Conkeldurr being a pure fighting type and yet it gets a rock type signature move. It just adds that little tiny bit more world building that makes it feel a little bit more real. Seismitoad is a toad that can sense seismic waves in the ground because it has warts, apparently. Now, if you've ever been in an earthquake or know anything about earthquakes, you'd know that the aftershock is actually more damaging than the actual initial earthquake. So I'm going to reflect that in the move with Seismic Pulse, a ground-type special move with 85 base power, and then the next turn creates a smaller shockwave, hitting the target for half damage. This was fairly interesting, but also is the opposite of how actual earthquakes work, with the initial strike in doing less damage in real life, but being the reverse in this move. It doesn't matter, don't think too hard about it. Sock and Throw are both, like, butchered spellings of actual words for fighting techniques. Throw is throw, as in like jujitsu throwing, and sock is another word to punch someone. And so I think it would be funny for their signature moves to just be the correct spelling of their words. Like imagine in the anime someone says, throw, use throw, or sock, use sock. I think it would be funny. The moves themselves, throw is of course, fighting type physical move. It has 85 base damage and causes the target to switch out, as if they're throwing the Pokemon back at their trainer. Sock is a 30 base damage move that hits 2 to 3 times. Does it balance out? Barely. Leavanny's a fun Pokemon. It's based on sewing and also little, I think, what are they called? Weaver ants, I think? The ones that, like, glue leaves together. I don't know. But it has this whole theme of making clothes for other Pokemon. So I think a move like Sew would be fun. It's a grass-type status move. And if the target is holding a clothing-based item, such as an assault vest, covert cloak, etc., the user will make a copy of it and hold it for themselves. Is this better than just making Leavanny hold the actual item? Of course not, but it's gimmicky and it's fun, and it doesn't have to be good competitively, okay? So shut up. Scolipede is weird. I have no idea. I think it's based on cars and buses. Whirlipede looks like a wheel, and it has the ability Speed Boost, and so it makes me think that it's a car, and it has patterns that look like wheels. I don't know. So it gets the move Rolling Spines, similar to how wheels on a car roll. It's a bug-type physical move with 45 base power, gets stronger with consecutive uses, and has a chance to poison. It's very similar to Rollout, except not, because it's bug-type and can poison. Whimsicott is a silly little guy. He's a little prankster man. Little prankster dude. So I think it's silly that it gets Prankster, and so I'm gonna give it a move that it can use alongside Prankster. Cotton Coat is a grass-type status move that lowers the target's speed and makes the target grass-type. Because if Soak can make the target water-type by just dousing them in water, then this can make them grass-type by dousing them in grass. Also, I'm just now realizing this is literally just a superior version to Forest Curse. Oh well. Crocodile is a crocodile. And so he would probably use some underhanded tactics. After all, he is dark type. And so I can imagine them pulling out some sand and throwing them into people's eyes as they're pursuing them, like pocket sand. So blinding sand is a ground type physical move with 85 base power and has a chance to lower accuracy. It's almost just a carbon copy of Muddy Water. I'm just now realizing that. No, Muddy Water's water type. What am I talking about? I'm going insane. Darmanitan is a gimmick Pokemon through and through, especially since it has 2 alternate forms, even though lots of people don't even know about the Zen form other than Galarian Darmanitan's Zen form, which is a whole lot more interesting than the Unobin one, but we're here to talk about the Unobin one and not the Galarian one. Basically, Raging Gorilla is a fire-type physical move that instantly changes Darmanitan into its standard mode if it's in its Zen mode, since a lot of the time you just want to use the standard mode because it's just better. Yo, so this section is taking like a lot longer than expected, so it's gonna be split up into 2 different parts. Part 2 coming out in heaven knows how long. Sorry.